You know, mental health is such a widely discussed and I think not well understood issue generally in our society. It's good to hear about a story of you. And you mentioned, now, was this a particular book or a particular author or a particular person you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll mention it, but I don't. I'm not. I wouldn't recommend that particular book. I think it was more about just there are resources out there, both books and websites and people that you can learn from. And the important thing is to continue to learn. For example, and what it reminds me of is with respect to the Parkinson's, one of my neurologists that I visited told me about the World Parkinson Congress, which is a once every 3 years conference that brings together major researchers as well as clinicians, physicians, and nurses, and alternative therapy providers, and people with Parkinson's and caregivers, and like anyone connected in any way with Parkinson's together. The last one was in Portland, Oregon in 2016, and I think there were 4,500 participants. So it's a huge 4 or 5 day event. So I continued, I've gone to those now twice. The next one is in 2019 in Kyoto, Japan. The previous one was in Montreal. But that's where you can learn a lot, and where I've met people that really, among all the knowledge learning, was inspiration. I met people for whom their Parkinson's is background noise, and you could barely tell they have it. And I asked them, what do they do? There's a guy who's written a book about it, and he's profiled in another book. His name is John Pepper. He's a South African guy. He's actually originally from Britain, but moved when I think around 20 years old to South Africa. And he's profiled in a book by a physician named Norman Doidge, D-O-I-D-G-E, called The Brain's Way of Healing. But there are people who've done it, and you can learn from them. And the key is just to get out there, keep learning, and stay in relationship with people.
So this is interesting. One thing people tend to do that I talk to is they do want the information. They desperately want the information. However, they tend to go about it in terms of Google searching, right? And, you know, that's a very different process. Let me ask you to hedge this question. What do you do for work?
I do two things. I'm a financial analyst and do business valuation related work for venture capital backed startup companies. And I'm also a management consultant.
Very good, very good. So now that's interesting, because in both those jobs there can be opportunity to isolate, but you also need to reach out as well. Communication is part of that job in order to manage those accounts, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what a lot of people do, like we mentioned, is the first thing, especially when they get scared, is they get on and they begin to Google search. And that sends them down a rabbit hole of looking for the worst possible scenario, as opposed to when you're face to face, you can very likely seek out the best opportunity. And I wonder if you've seen that dynamic and you speak more toward that.
Again, it's people. I don't go down that looking for the worst case. I can imagine you can do that. Go looking for the worst cases and try to self-diagnose. And it's just people and relate. It's what you really known since you were a kid. It's people and relationships are what's really important. And I want to hedge one thing that I said too, because I know there are people who get diagnosed. Mostly it's older people that get diagnosed. I was 53 when I was diagnosed, and I had a history of being somewhat athletic, which helped in me. And I know there are people who get diagnosed in their 70s. Maybe they never really exercised a lot, and it would be easy for them to say, you know, there's nothing for me to do about this, and just plunk down on the couch. And I think what I've learned from talking to various people involved in Parkinson's, the key thing is to do something that pushes yourself. So if walking 5 minutes a day is pushing yourself, push yourself with that. If that's nothing for you because you're a relatively serious exerciser, then push yourself to go a little bit further. But the thing is, push yourself. And coming back to your original point, yeah. Relationships and face-to-face is very different. It's very different to meet someone who's managing their Parkinson's well, or is telling you specifically what they find helpful and not. Or that's why I love your project. Than it is to read some words about worst cases and on the internet.